Are you tired of spending all of your hard-earned cash on expensive comics? Well, today I'm going to show you how to stretch your budget like it's superhero spandex and get the most bang for your buck. Get ready for the top 10 comics for a $20 budget because we're digging out some awesome but affordable books. Kicking off the list in the number 10 spot is a Batman one-shot focusing in on the Caped Crusaders' first run-in with the Clown Prince of Crime, Batman the Man Who Laughs. This prestige format issue was published by DC Comics in April 2005, and was written by one of my favorite modern writers, Ed Brubaker, and was drawn by Doug Mankey. This issue is a fun look back on the earliest days of the Dark Knight. If you track one of these down in the wild, it should cost you right around 20 bucks, but the story is worth every penny. Dropping in at the number 9 spot is Captain America Volume 5, number 34. Published in March 2008, Cap 34 settled the question posed by the preceding arc: who will wield the shield? And the answer to that question was Bucky Barnes, who made his debut as Captain America in this issue. Steve Epting drew the cover and interior art for the A cover, while Alex Ross provided not one but two variant covers for this issue, which was written by Ed Brubaker. Not a bad way to start off a list, an Ed Brubaker double tap. The A and B cover can each be had for our $20 budget, with the A cover coming in right at 20 bucks, while the B cover runs between $10 and $15. However, the Dynamic Forces Alex Ross variant would blow out our budget in a hurry. Since all original ideas have long been exhausted, we're in the middle of a wave of prequels, sequels, and spin-offs coming out of Hollywood. Our number 8 book may catch a bump in interest when the latest installment of the series releases on April 21st. Haunting the number 8 spot is Evil Dead number 1. Evil Dead Rise is hitting theaters soon, and initial reactions seem to be quite positive, which, following a series of so-so big screen experiences lately, I'm hoping it lives up to the hype. Evil Dead number 1 was published by Dark Horse Comics in January 2008. The issue was written by Mark Verheiden and drawn by John Bolton. This 4-issue series was an adaptation of the classic Sam Raimi horror film. Fans of the franchise might expect this to be Ash's first comic book appearance, but that actually came all the way back in November 1992's Army of Darkness number 1, which was also published by Dark Horse. In the current market, you can pick up a copy of Evil Dead number 1 for really under 15 bucks in most cases. In a surprise move, Marvel released the first trailer for the Marvels this week, giving us our first official sneak peek into the project. And while the usual suspects, think Miss Marvel number 1, Marvel Superheroes 13, ASM Annual 16, and so on, aren't really showing much in the way of signs of life, our number 7 book is starting to lift off. Coming in at the number 7 spot is Silver Surfer number 53, the first appearances of Aldan and Dar Ben, a pair of Kree generals. It's been confirmed that Zawe Ashton will be playing Dar Ben in the upcoming film. This issue is currently up to $15 on average, with a decent volume of sales since the trailer's release earlier this week. A word of warning though, don't FOMO into this one. Silver Surfer had very large print runs during this time, especially as a primary crossover series for the Infinity Gauntlet arc, so there are a number of available copies out there. Silver Surfer 53 was published in August 1991 with a creative team composed of artist Ron Lim and writer Ron Mars. The X-Files taught us all a couple of important lessons back in the mid-90s. The truth is out there, and trust no one. And while the Fox series kept things spooky on the TV, it was actually Topps Comics that brought Scully and Mulder to your friendly neighborhood comic shop, starting with our number 6 book, X-Files number 1. Published in January 1995, this issue has always confused the hell out of me. You see, there were 2 covers. Well, 2 logos, let's say. One with an X-Files logo that has this green glow behind it, and then a special numbered edition that featured a red glow behind the same logo. Other than that, the covers were the same. According to comics.org, the true first printing is actually the green cover logo version, while the numbered special edition with the red logo is technically a second printing, even though they were released at the same time. I don't know how that works, but that's what it says. Both issues are well within our $20 budget, with the special edition tending to actually sell for just a few dollars more than the regular. So maybe it's the serial number, the pull-out poster, or the extra 40 pages of content that drives that small bump in value. Or maybe it's all an elaborate scheme from the cigarette smoking man to get a few more dollars out of us. We may never know. X-Files 1 was written by Stefan Petruka with cover art from Miriam Kim and interior art from Charlie Adler of Walking Dead fame. One of the more interesting things Marvel did in the 1980s was to start a universe that was a mashup of their stable of characters and Old MacDonald's farm. So what we wound up with was characters like Goose Rider, Hulk Bunny, Captain Americat, and of course, Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. Our number 5 book isn't Peter Porker's first appearance in Marvel Tales number 1, but rather Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham number 1. Published in May 1985, this issue was written by Steve Skeets and drawn by Mark Armstrong with a Michael Golden cover. Not only was this Spider-Ham's first solo title issue, it's also the premiere issue of Marvel's Star Comics imprint, which was an imprint that would focus primarily on popular children's titles from the mid-80s such as Muppet Babies, Heathcliff, Care Bears, and the Masters of the Universe. Star would go on to become a thorn in the side of collectors who were chasing down Marvel's 25th anniversary covers, as the print runs for Star's issues were comparatively tiny compared to those of the main Marvel titles. Spectacular Spider-Ham number 1 brought a few new characters into the barn, with Dr. Doom and the Fantastic Fur making their debuts. If you can manage to track one of these down out in the wild, our $20 budget should just cover it. The number 4 book is going to go back in time, or maybe even the future. Regardless of what direction we go, you, me, Marty, Doc Brown, we're all piling into the DeLorean for Back to the Future number 1 from Harvey Comics. Like everything that those of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s experienced, if there was something on TV, then there was something out in the stores to buy, and that's how we wound up with this short-lived Back to the Future comic series. The 4-issue run kicked off with this issue, which was cover dated for November 1991, but it actually hit the shelves at the end of July, just about 6 weeks before the Back to the Future animated series debuted on CBS Saturday mornings. Back to the Future number 1 is an easy nostalgia hit, and while I may be biased, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. Chances are you can pick this one up for $10 to $15 if you happen to be fortunate enough to come across it. The main story was written by Dwayne McDuffie and drawn by Nelson Dewey, but a special treat with this book is the cover art is from legendary Silver and Bronze Age artist Gil Kane. One of the most underrated X-Men stories in the post-Dark Phoenix era is the Brood Saga. Parasitic space bugs that are nothing short of brutal aren't typically what you'd expect to find in a Comics Code approved book, but our number 3 book, Uncanny X-Men 155, made it happen by introducing the Brood. Published in March 1982, this Dave Cockrum and Chris Claremont issue of Uncanny X-Men kicks off a storyline that would run through issue 167. The Brood broadened the sci-fi vibes that had been playing out in X-Men since the arrival of the Phoenix Force and the Shi'ar by bringing some of that classic space monster trope to the mutant space odyssey. In a pre-comic book collecting app era, Uncanny X-Men 155 may well have been considered a run filler issue, but in today's world, it's a key issue worthy of 15 of your hard-earned dollars in exchange for a high-grade raw copy. The Super Mario Bros. Movie has been tearing up the box office for a couple of weekends now, and before its release, hype for the movie helped drive interest in video game-related comic books and magazines. The number 2 book is one such book that is still quite affordable, Mega Man number 1. Published in September 2003 by Dreamwave, it's pretty wild to think that throughout the 80s and 90s, with as popular as Mega Man was, that this issue is the character's first comic book appearance. Mega Man was released in December 1987 on the NES, with sequels following in 1988, 1990, 1991, 1992, and 1993 before the franchise moved on to the SNES platform with March 1995's Mega Man 7. Mega Man was created by Capcom, but the creative team for his first comic book appearance consisted of artist Mick Fong and writer Brian Augustin. On a side note, there's actually a variant of this issue from fan favorite artist Scotty Young, who was only about a year and a half into his career as a comic book artist at the time this was released. A copy of this debut issue will take it easy on your wallet, as it should only set you back $10 for a raw, high-grade copy. Topping the spring 2023 top 10 comics for a $20 budget list is a heaping scoop of nostalgia with Disney Afternoon #1. There were few cartoon blocks bigger in the 90s than the Disney Afternoon. Launched in September 1990, the after-school cartoon block ran for 2 hours every day and included a number of big-name shows over the years, such as DuckTales, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, and the Gargoyles. In November 1994, Disney launched a comic book series for the block that would run for a total of 10 issues. Disney Afternoon #1 featured stories from Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, Tailspin, and Bonkers, with each of the anthology's features being included on the John Blair Moore cover. Darkwing Duck gets top billing with the largest feature on the cover and a pretty awesome workup from Moore. The Disney Afternoon is a fairly tough series to find, and as with most kids' titles, high-grade copies can be tough to come by. That said, a copy of this premiere issue should be able to be picked up for right around $20. The $20 list is always one of my favorites because it's so accessible. I know it's not for everybody. Some people prefer to roll deep at all times, but it's not possible for all or even most of us. The best part of this price point is that it's overflowing with just simply fun books. You'll most certainly never retire off of any of these things, but you may find yourself sitting down and reading a fun story, reliving a memorable moment from your childhood, or adding a bit of your personality to your collection as opposed to the flavor of the week that the rest of the market is FOMOing over. Let me take a quick second and talk about some things we've got going on coming up. The calendar's starting to fill up with shows. We'll be in Indianapolis May 5th, 6th, and 7th for the Indiana Comic Con, and we just found out our booth number is 1209. Next, we'll be in St. Louis on May 21st for the Shrewsbury Spectre Club Comic Show. After that, we'll be in Des Moines, Iowa on June 3rd and 4th for Des Moines Con, and I'm excited to announce that we'll actually be putting on our first ever Como comic book show here in Columbia, Missouri on August 19th. If you're in the area for any of these shows, I hope you'll come out and see us and say hi. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.